everyone, and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be working with the new Diamond Press Hello Pumpkin Shadowbox Slimline kit. I'll be making 4 cards plus a bonus treat bag topper for you. So this Diamond Press kit comes in like a flat cardboard mailer, and what we have are several pieces. Inside the bag we've got the stamp set and also the dies. So setting the stamps aside for a second, let's take a look at the dies. So the pieces are this wrought iron fence, a witch, a scary tree, a couple ghosts, a spider, a sentiment frame, and also the folder to use in your Diamond Press marquee. There are 2 5.5 by 5.5 inch stamp sets. This one has the sentiment, and this set are stamps that have no matching dies for them. There are always a good set of instructions that come with Diamond Press in my somewhat limited experience, and it details all the steps for successful completion, including how to put in the 3D dimension part of this box card, and then it shows you how to put it together, and then finally gives you some examples of potential cards you could make with it. These are card designs. If you flip over this back page, you're going to see how the stamp and dies work together on the top part. And then at the bottom, you see what each of the dies make in terms of shapes. Now, here's where I find a little irony, because the set is called Hello Pumpkin, but there's not one single pumpkin image in this set. So take it for what you will. Maybe they intended to have a pumpkin when they first conceived the set, but it certainly doesn't have one now. But in any case, that's fine. There's lots of great images anyway. What I'm doing at this point is I'm taking a few sheets of 8.5 by 11 paper, and I'm cutting it in half with the short side at the top. So I end up with 4.25 by 8.5 inch pieces, and these are going to be used to create the actual physical shadow box itself. So you get these 2 dies. There's the frame, and then there's the inside piece, and all of these sets, by the way, are the same. They have this frame and then some kind of insert that goes in it. And you need 2 copies or 2 cuts of this very same image. At least that's how they tell you to do it. I think it's meant really to build more strength up in the box, because this is a wide piece. But what you'll do is connect those pieces with washi tape so that you can cut 2 and that they will exactly match. And then once those 2 pieces have been cut in matching cardstock, you can go ahead and release that and then cut a couple pieces out of the back. And these all have tabs on them, so we do need to get rid of tabs on a few pieces. And you'll see why later if that doesn't make sense to you right now. So I'm just going to choose one of the fronts because I need to cut off this tab. This is going to go on top of the other piece that has the tab. And then in the back, this piece of cardstock, which actually is like a glimmer type paper, I'm going to cut that off because it's going to sit on top of the back piece with the tab and serve as the backdrop to the scene. I'm using 80-pound paper for this, but even so, having the 2 layers does create a heftier and more substantial card base, which is good since you've got a long piece. This is 8 inches wide, and so that's a long span, and you want to make sure that you have strength in that. Now here's where I realized there is a right side and a wrong side to this front. I thought they probably were similar or the same image, but they are not. So just be aware of which side is the right one, and that way you can get them to double up and look correct. Your webs will match and all that. I'm going to take an opportunity then right now to score the tabs. There's 2 score lines for each tab, and this is what's going to connect our front and back together. So this is the back piece that's really just for strength, and it matches the front. And then this piece is going to be connected to the back on the left side in this case. Now you could do it either way, right or left or right, doesn't matter. Just one side needs to be attached. Do your best to match the edges so that it looks like one continuous piece. And then you can install the background. You don't have to use a different background, of course. I could have used the same dark purple that I used for the rest of this card, but I thought that this added some nice contrast between the dark purple and the light purple for my scene, and also because it has a glimmery type finish, it makes it different enough that I don't feel a need to ink it up or do anything special with the inside. I've gone ahead and cut out all the pieces. Now here's the die with the wrought iron fence. There's the spider, the witch, one of the ghosts, and the bats, and the sentiment eek. There's another ghost, but I didn't use it in this particular card. You'll see it in a later card, however. So to get started, I'm going to stamp some images in the background of this card, and I'm going to put in some stars first. I'm going to have a witch in the center flying on her broom, so in the background behind her I would like to have some stars and the crescent moon that is in this stamp set. I'm going to first then use StazOn ink to stamp onto this background piece, making sure that it's going to show through the window and it's fairly centered to that. This way I can see all three of the stars in the background. And then here's the crescent moon, and it seems to have been designed to just exactly fit in between the stars so that you get kind of that good night sky background, which I thought was very clever and smart to do of Diamond Press. Next I'm going to add a corner web. There are two webs in this set, this corner one, and then there's a larger, almost full circle web, which I'm going to again use in a different card. But in this one I'm just going to use the corner web and put it at the bottom of this particular square because I'm going to put the big spider in there. Now, even though I'm using StazOn, I'm going to add some heat gun here just to dry it up quicker. And I use StazOn for the reason that it will dry very quickly compared to regular dye ink. On this background that is slippery, you will have trouble using regular dye inks because they just take forever to dry. It doesn't really absorb into the cardstock. It stays on the surface, and therefore it will dry, but it takes a long time. And I'm not patient enough to wait for that, so hence the reason for the StazOn. Alrighty, now I'm going to get ready to install the wrought iron fences. Now this is made to create a kind of a 3D scene by using these fences and the tabs with them to create a spacer, if you will. I had made one card before this one using the same design that I'm going to show you, and it just didn't work really well. The witch in the middle kept catching on the wrought iron fence. So I decided that the smarter thing to do in this case would be just to straight on glue these fences to the back of the frame. And I'm going to use a different method to make sure that there's some spacers in there. So it's an alternative way to do this. I'm going to show you the correct way per Diamond Press, but for this particular card design, I'm not going to do that. So I've got an alternative for the spacers. This piece is 3/4 inch by 2.5 inches, and I'm going to score it to help me deal with the small size of this by scoring it at 1/4 inch and at 1/2 inch. Then I'm going to flip it on its long side, and I'm going to score it at 1/2 inch, 1 inch, 1.5 inch, and 2 inches. So in other words, every 1/2 inch. Then I'm going to turn it back so I can cut it, and I'm going to use those score lines to help me see easily where I should cut this into 3 separate strips of 1/4 inch by 2.5 inches. And then I'll also have the score lines in there because I'm going to fold each of these into 4 sections. I know that probably doesn't make a lot of sense, but here we go. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And this allows me to make a little box, which I can then glue together at the top. And you can see the one sitting next to my bone folder there. It's approximately square. The second one I made was a little more square than the first one for some reason. But anyway, this will allow me to give it some support and therefore keep the Shadowbox design in place. So I'm going to flatten this, put glue on one of the sections, lay it down underneath a frame area. So in other words, this is going to be sitting exactly where those tabs would have been for the wrought iron fences if I had done it this way. But by doing it this way, I'm able to create the dimension without having the characters get caught on that very delicate wrought iron fence die cut. So now I'm putting the front and the back half together by gluing it at the tab again on the other side. Same process as the left side, but in this case now I've created that box frame you can see from the top, and here are my supports. And all I need to do at this point is I'm going to lower them down. This is how the card would be when you mail it. And then I'm going to put glue at the side that would actually be touching the card when it's flat, and let that set for a few seconds. And then once that's set, it will hold in place as I flatten it or as I set it up so that it creates that dimension. I'm going to put a third one in, but not quite yet, and I will show you why. I need the top of this open so that I can put my characters inside. And if I put in that support on the top, I would have a hard time doing so. So here we are with the witch. I'm going to connect it to the frame as well. So now it is sitting just slightly below the layer with the fence, and when I move this flat or upright, the witch doesn't get caught because the pieces are moving together. And that was the problem I was having before. The witch was attached the same way, but those fence pieces were put in differently and they moved independently, and so the two figures were catching. I've put in the spider on the left side now, just glued it straight on. I know you can see the white glue there, but it does dry clear, so not an issue. When you're working with the shiny surfaces like this lighter purple, it's better, I find, to just let the glue dry clear than try to wipe it off, because it will smear and then you can't ever make it look nice again. It's just smeary. But if you just let it dry clear, you rarely even notice it as such a small amount of glue that might seep through. Now here is the sentiment I'm going to use. It just says eek. I think that's fun, and it's a nice little script sentiment that the die cuts out. I've got a few bats that I'm going to attach now around the top of the frame. I'm going to just dab that glue with my fingers because I know I've got way too much on there. It would really seep out too much. So by doing that, it gets my fingers messy, but it keeps the card clean. So I've got the two that I'm putting on here in the center, and then I've got two that I'm going to put on the outside with a little bit of the wing hanging over. I'm going to do the same thing on the right side and have that bat wing just slightly overhang. Just gives it a little bit more interest and a little bit more fun. And I'm also going to show you that once I got all this done, I went ahead and put in that third support at the top. I'll flip this up so you can see that. There, you see that one on the top? And so now I have the support I need, and I've finished this card up. Hope you like this one. I'm going to move on to card 2, and I've got a couple pieces of cardstock cut out here. I'm going to cut out one with just the frame and the other one with the frame and the insert. So I've got that done, and now I'm going to take off the tabs on both of these pieces because I'm not going to make the traditional box card with this. I'm going to make just a traditional slimline card instead, using the materials that came in the kit. So this is going to go one on top of the other, and I'm going to just pencil in the open area on the back piece so I kind of know where I'm going to be working. This can easily be erased when I'm done, but then I can take away the front piece and I'll know where I'm at. So a great alternative to making the Shadowbox card is just using the materials to make a more traditional type of slimline card, and that's again what I'm up to here. I'm going to fill each of these windows with something interesting, and so I've pulled out the sentiment "Boo to You." There are a couple sentiments that are sort of rectangular or square in shape like this that fit perfectly in the boxes, so they did a great job planning for that and giving you additional options. I'm going to put Versamark on that stamp because I'm going to emboss it. I actually do this process a couple times, usually about 3 times before I find the emboss, but I'm not going to show all that time. However, that just makes sure that I get a good coating of the Versamark, so I get a good coating of embossing powder. As usual, you want to tap off all the excess powder, and then you can heat it up and melt the embossing powder. I recently found out that embossing powder is actually just shaved plastic, and I was kind of surprised to find that out, but that's what it is. So it easily melts underneath your heat gun and then adheres. So it makes sense, but I had never realized it was just plastic before. So there you go. There's the Boo to You sentiment. I think it turned out pretty cutely. I'm going to get rid of the excess embossing powder before I move on. It's very important. And then I'm going to do my next process. So I'm going to replace the Boo to You sentiment with one of these little monsters. The two monsters, one is like a Frankenstein kind of character. The other is a mummy type character. They also fit perfectly in the boxes. So obviously they were well planned to do that and fit in there. So I really do appreciate that. And I'm going to set him in there where I want him and do the same process as I did with the Boo to You. I'm going to put some Versamark on there, stamp it down. Likely I did this 3 times. It's just kind of my thing. I'll use that paddle to get it all down as well as I can. And then I'm going to apply this beautiful purple glitter embossing powder. This particular powder came in a card crafting kit from Hero Arts many months ago. And so I'm just pulling it out here because purple works so well in Halloween cards and projects. Now you could tell when this is melting because it glitters when it's melting. It glimmers and shimmers. And that's kind of the best way to tell that you've got heat going on is that glittering, twinkling effect that you're going to get as it melts. Now I'm going to do the same process with the mummy, and you can really see from there how well it fits in that window. So I'm going to go ahead once again and apply the Versamark and then press it down very well. Do that about 3 times. And now this time I'm going to take out some Wow embossing powder in glitter, and this of course is black. So I think it adds some fun to this image. Now this particular powder stuck harder than my other powder did. Not sure why, possibly because it's just older. It's quite a bit older. And I didn't use any kind of powder on it to get rid of static cling. So to fix and compensate for this, I just took out a brush and started brushing away excess glitter. After I heat embossed that last image and before I finish all the decorating I'm going to do, I decided to erase my pencil marks, probably a bit prematurely because I'm going to put more things around these characters and the sentiment, but I managed to make it work. To start with, I'm going to use the stars, but only one star I'm going to ink up at a time. And I started really by putting one of these larger stars in each of the 3 rectangles. Once I get that placed, I'm going to go ahead and use the 2 stars together, the ones that are closer together, the bigger and the smaller star. First I'll have to clean up the ink though on the one I've used so that doesn't also leave a ghost imprint. That would not be good. As I said before, I'm going to ink up 2 of these stars now, the 2 that are closest together. I had a little bit of smearing onto the stamp itself, so I'm going to clean that up so that I get a nice clean imprint on the actual piece of cardstock. And I'm going to do that here and there throughout this piece as well, just to get, again, some more background going. I probably should tell you that I'm really new to Diamond Press. This is just my 3rd kit that I've gotten from them, and they're all this Shadowbox kind of kit. This was part of an auto ship program that started in the beginning of the year. I think there are 5 of them coming out in total, and this is number 3. So I've been enjoying these. I really thought that the Shadowbox Slimline was a unique product I really hadn't seen in other places, and I just thought it would be fun. All the inserts are a slightly different shape, and it came with a lot of stamps, so those stamps can be used in lots of other ways in different projects and cards as well. So I just thought it would be a good investment. And so far I've had a lot of fun with them. I did another quick review of the Sunshiny Day kit, so if you're interested in that, I've put a link in the upper right hand corner for you if you want to check that out. I'm going to bring in my micron pen and I'm going to make some of these points in a couple of the stars just a little more pointed. When I stamped them, they didn't get as crisp looking as I wanted, so this is a quick and easy way to fix that. All right, so now I've put double-sided foam tape behind the front of the card panel, and I'm going to apply this on top of the back. And you have to be very careful about this because they are the same size, and you want to be as close to exactly on the top as possible. And I did a pretty decent job. I'm now going to make a card base. This is 8 by 7. And I'm going to score it at 3.5 inches long. So this makes a card base that is 8 inches wide and 3.5 inches deep, and it folds at the top. Now a standard slimline card, as I mentioned earlier, typically is 8.5 by 3.5, but this 8-inch size is fine. It will fit in, the envelopes made for slimlines without any problem, and it doesn't look like absurdly too big. I do have some slimline envelopes that I tried this in and it was fine. So don't worry about that. Once that panel was ready, then I could attach it to my card base like you're seeing here. I just use wet glue for that, and I prefer that just so I can move that card panel around and get it exactly right. When I got this far with it, I thought it was missing a little something, so I went to look at all of my stickers in my stash. And I found this sticker pack. I don't know where I got it. It's at least 2 years old. I think maybe I got it at Joann's, but I am not positive about that. And obviously you probably couldn't get it anymore anyway, regardless. But I thought that the candy bucket here was kind of fun, and I like the candy corn, so I put those on. Now you could use any stickers you have in your stash that you like that would fit with the theme. And you could put them anywhere on your card front like I'm doing here. In addition to the candy bowl, I thought that adding a few stars to the frame here and there would be nice too, so I did that. And although you can't tell in the video, the polka dots are actually glitter polka dots. And so the additional graphics, the few extra stars, it just is a nice finishing touch to the overall card. And so there you go. That finishes card number 2 for you. All right, I'm moving on to card number 3, and to start with, I'm going to use that great big graphic die and stamp to create a sentiment that's going to be very prominent on the card. I decided to do this in vellum because it is so large. It takes up quite a bit of real estate on the card. And I'm going to set this up first with a die and then just put in the sentiment approximately so that I knew I had plenty of room to do the die cutting after I'm done stamping. But anyway, because this is such a prominent piece, I thought that having it be transparent, or at least somewhat transparent, would be a good thing on this card. Because I'm not going to do a slimline at all for this one. It's going to be a 5 by 7 card. Now after I emboss this, I use that gorgeous purple glitter embossing powder again. I think I'm in love. I love it. Purple is one of my favorite colors, but oh, the purple glitter, it's so pretty. Whenever you do this, you do want to tap off any excess before you then heat emboss it. And like I said before, you can tell it's heating and melting because it has a little bit of a glitter to it. It glimmers as it's melting, so you know you're getting it. Now I cut that out with that die that I showed you in the very beginning, and now I'm setting it up to do the second stamp. And this gives this banner all of its character and shape. So to do this, I'm going to use my Stays On again because this is vellum with a slippery finish, and the Stays On will dry quickest as opposed to using something like a normal dye ink. So I'm going to impress that on there, and I'll bring in my paddle to get that really pushed down nicely. And you can see what a pretty result you have. It's pretty cool. Off camera, I cut a bunch of the pieces. So I have the spiders, I've got the owl, a tree, and some of these spiders I did in glitter paper as well. I cut 3 of the fence pieces, and I'm going to trim them at the score line that is closest to where the fence actually starts. So I'm not just randomly cutting, I'm actually cutting on that score line so that I know that each border on each side is going to be the same on all 3 pieces. Then I'm going to work on putting these at the bottom of my card. As I mentioned, this is a 5x7 card, and it will not be a slimline therefore, and I'm not going to make it a box card either. This is just another idea to use the set to make a fun Halloween card. Because, you know, when we buy our stamp sets and our kits, we want to do other things besides exactly what it was intended to. At least I feel that way, because you want to get good value for your purchase. And so I thought I would give you a couple more ideas about what to do with this kit. Once I applied the center fence, then I could go ahead and apply the other 2 on each side. And since the center was correct, the other 2 will be correct also. So I get a pretty even edge on each side of that fence on this card front. Then I'm going to lay in the scary tree, and I just put that happy haunting sentiment there to kind of give me an idea of spacing and where I should put the tree. I'm going to bring back these really fun spider webs, and I'm going to stamp those in. I stamp the big one twice up there in the left hand corner and sort of in the middle-ish area there, and then that one in the corner as well on the top. Off camera, I attach 2 of the spiders to the front of this banner, and then that allows me a place to put some glue to put down on the card without it showing through. So you're really always trying to figure out how to use your vellum so that glue doesn't show. I decided to put the owl on the fence with his head touching the banner. I thought that was kind of a fun look. And then I'm going to start attaching all of the spiders. Now I only attach them with glue in the body area, so the legs aren't necessarily completely level with your paper. It just gives the legs a little bit more dimension if you don't tack them on completely. And then I also spaced those glitter spiders out a little bit. And then I decided on the 2 spiders that I had to apply another spider on top with some foam tape. So those 2 glitter spiders have even more dimension and their legs look even better. Then I thought it would be fun to use some purple pearls. This is a great color of purple pearl. These are from Eyelet Outlet, and I'm putting these on the abdomen of every spider that is not glittered. So they stand out a little bit as well. And then I figured I needed to have some eyes for my owl. It's intended to be a silhouette, but I thought adding the eyes gave it a nice touch. This completes the panel. All that's needed now is to put it on the 5x7 card base that I made. And I'm doing that with wet glue. I'll just put this on the front and it will be finished. I love how this turned out. Again, I hope you like this one too. It's just a different idea completely from the Slimline style and the Shadowbox style as well. Well, speaking of that, let's go do another Shadowbox style card. I've already cut the pieces and trimmed the tabs off of the 2, just like I did in the first card. I didn't think there was a need to repeat all of that. This is going to be lighter purple cardstock with a black background. This time I cut the fence pieces out of some shinier silver cardstock. It's not really like mirror cardstock, it's more like a galvanized metal kind of appearance. I've attached the other pieces of this card together the same way that I did the first one. So I've glued in the background and I'm getting ready to add the fence. But this time the fence is going in the way it was intended by Diamond Press, where the fence is going to provide the support to make this a shadow box. So after gluing in the first one, I can glue in the second one. I'm going to flatten that middle one, and that tells me where I can put the fence on the right side. Because when I'm going to close this, I'm going to collapse it all to the right side. And doing it this way, you know you have enough room. And then on this side, I will collapse it and kind of do the same thing, attaching that left one just far enough away to be clear when the fences are collapsed. So those are in place, and now I can connect the card together to make the full shadow box. So once again, I use glue, and I'm going to attach and push these ends together, making sure that the corners match nicely and that everything lines up well. I'm going to insert the ghosts from the top, similarly to how I did with the first card and the spiders and the witch and all that. The top is open at this point, so you can easily put in whatever you want from the top. And I love the ghosts. I used a holographic white paper for this, and it just makes them stand out even more on that black background. Also off camera, I made the banner the same way that I did the previous card, only this time with black cardstock instead of vellum. And it says Happy Boo Day in that really pretty purple embossing powder. This card design is very, very similar to one shown in the directions that came with the set. And I chose to make this for you just because it's a little different from the others I'm making, but also because it shows you how you're supposed to use the fences for your support. And I thought that was important to show you. So there we are, card number 4. As a final project, I'm making a treat bag topper, and I found a die that was the perfect size for bags that I had in my stash. After cutting it out of purple paper, I am scoring it in the center because this will be folded, and that of course will go over the top of my bag to seal it. I'm powdering it up really heavily because I'm going to be using nothing but embossing ink and powder on this. And to start with, I'm going to emboss this house. It's kind of a spooky looking house. It's one of the stamps I haven't used yet, and so I want to make sure to show you what all of them look like, or at least give you some idea of how they will look. Again, using Versamark ink, and probably I did this again 3 times. It's just my habit. And I chose to use the black sparkle embossing powder from Zing again, and boy did that have a lot of beautiful detail with the windows and everything. I really liked that. I used the same technique to put in the cat image, and I do believe that I used all of the images in this set with these 5 products. I did not use all the sentiments, but I believe I've used all of the shaped stamps and all of the shaped dies as well. The last thing I did was stamp in and emboss the white crescent moon, which I think is a nice touch here. Since I had a really heavy coating of anti-static powder, I used a paper towel and rubbed all that off to get a nice clean look to my finished candy topper. I stapled the bag to the topper, and I put it in an area where the tree is going to cover it up. And so then on the right side, I used a little bit of double-sided adhesive to get it to stay in place over there. The tree branch is going to be placed to hide that staple. Well, I hope you enjoyed the 5 projects I made for you, the 4 cards and this treat bag topper. This is a really versatile set, and I think you'll find a lot of uses for it if you like Halloween. I'd love it if you'd tell me which of the 5 projects you like the best. That does it for me today. Thank you so much for joining me. And if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. In the meantime, here are a couple more videos you might like. Take care, and I'll be back soon with a new video.